is what I term our Clearbrook historian, and that's what he did last time. It gave us a lot of the history of Clearbrook. And that's, you live in that area, right?
Right.
Your family. And you do tours of the cemeteries and give the history of those. So a very, very interesting person. And our very own Jim Burke here, another celebrity. So, where we go?
Anyway, well, thank you for having me back. And Eileen asked me to do another presentation after my Clearbrook one, and so I said I'd do the Cooperative Weather Station, since we are a NOAA Cooperative Weather Station at Clearbrook, the Clearbrook Station. I want to give a brief history of the station, very brief, and then what I do, and then I want to go on the internet and show all the things that are available from NOAA on the internet. And so let's see if we can get started here. I'll just read the little program history. The first network of the Cooperative Station was a result of an act of Congress in 1890 that established the Weather Bureau. But many co-op stations began operation long before that time. John Campanius Holmes, who was a Lutheran minister, took systematic weather records without the benefit of any instruments in 1644-45. And they're the earliest observations in the United States. I had to start my presentation somewhere. I didn't want to go back too far in history, so that's pretty much where we're going to begin at. Subsequently, many persons, including George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and Benjamin Franklin, maintained weather records. And incidentally, Thomas Jefferson, there is a Jefferson Award for the cooperative weather stations, but Thomas Jefferson got his first thermometer in 1776 during the writing of the Declaration of Independence. And on July 4th, 1776, he recorded 76 degrees in Philadelphia. Jefferson almost maintained an almost unbroken record of weather observations between 1776 and 1816. And George Washington took his last observation just a few days before he died. With the congressional passage of the National Weather Service Organic Act in 1890, a system of recruitment and train volunteers across the United States to become cooperative weather observers was set up. These observers volunteer their time to record and report weather and climate observation to the National Weather Service on a daily basis. They observe daily maximum, minimum, rain, and snowfall totals and more. And pretty much at our station, that's what we do. We do the maximum, the minimum, what the observation is at the time we take it, and precipitation.
So you're a volunteer.
Right, we don't get paid.
Okay, and I know this is embarrassing, but where is Clearbrook?
Clearbrook is about 4 miles north of Jefferson here.
Really? I don't even...
North of the about 1 mile north of the Badger.
But it's not is it a town? It's not a town.
It used to be a town.
Okay, that's what's confusing me. Okay.
Years ago it was a town. It was when the railroad came through, then there was a hotel, there was actually a Presbyterian church, there were sawmills around. It was quite active until about 1915. And
how many citizen weather stations are there?
in the United States, there's over 11,000. And I'll show that on a map when we get done. And all the information from these stations are accessible to people if you know how to get to the link. The data is used to support daily weather forecasts and warnings, and it continues to help build the nation's historical climate record. And that's probably pretty much what I think our station, because we are recording since 1903, is pretty much just a historical climate record. Today's Cooperative Observer Program. Today, volunteers record weather and climate data at almost 10,000 sites, and I believe there's about 11 or 12 throughout the 50 U.S. states and its territories. The federal government provides observers with free training, and I don't remember any training, and equipment, but they do maintain the equipment. We don't have to do anything with the equipment, and I'll show you that a little bit later here. The equipment to set up their weather station. The National Weather Service offers additional support through equipment maintenance and site visits. They come once a year. I can remember the guy coming the time that the gas line blew up, and that must have been in May in Bellingham. He was there that day, and he couldn't get home through Bellingham.
Yeah.
But it's pretty minimal once the equipment, and you'll see why. It's pretty minimal equipment, and it doesn't take much maintenance. The observer's job is a great public service to the local communities and to the nation. I do report to a government office down at the Hannigan there. They get my weather information, and the Tribune gets it every week. So that's where they get it, from the Clearbrook station. And we do have to check our weather instruments daily and submit data over the phone or internet. Today, we do it over the internet. And I'll show you that a little later. The data is quality controlled and then published online for everyone's use. And it's quite amazing what they have available online. And the quality control, if you put a temperature that is, how is that? If it's higher than the low for the maximum, it doesn't like it. It's like an Excel. It's an if formula or whatever. It'll kick it out. So you got to put it in correctly, and then at the end of the month, you got to submit. You got to look at all your data, and you got to submit it for a monthly report. Well, nearly all of the 10,000 observing sites support local weather, climate, and flood forecasts. The data from 1,221 of them also contribute to the U.S. Regional Climate Record. These sites are called, let me try this again. Climatological Network were selected for their unbroken record in static site location for at least 80 years. And ours has been in the same location since, it was in Clearbrook and moved two times. It started in Clearbrook, and then it moved in 1919 to its present location. So it's been there a little while. Whether we're a historical site or not, I don't know. Additional uses of observer data. Up to 26 types of weather measurements are reported by observers, including soil temperature, which we don't do, evaporation we don't do, soil measurement we do, but it's kind of tough in the northeaster. What is it, And the liquid equivalent of snow, normally they'll say 10 inches of snow equals 1 inch of rain, but there's a big variation in snow, so you're actually supposed to go out and melt it and take a sample, melt it, and see what it is, because the density of snow changes on a daily basis. Historical weather averages and norms for all areas of the country are determined using the observer data, and we'll see that later when we go in. They got some supercomputers back, and I believe it's in Asheville, Virginia, where the government it collects all this data, and then they have a database that goes back to 1903 for our site, and pretty much for every site that from the day they started. Observer data helps settle billions of dollars annually in insurance and legal claims. Yes, occasionally I'll get a call someone wanting to know what the temperature was at a certain time. The only problem with that is there's a big difference between one area and another. Even though the Washington has this wet and mild climate, it changes from Everson to Clearbrook. And sometimes I'll direct them to a WSU site. WSU has 4 weather sites in this area, and they're recording on every 15 minutes what the soil temperature is and what the maximum, minimum is. And so sometimes you can get, if something happened over at Linden, I'll direct them to that site because you can get the data for the whole day of that site. I determine federal disaster declarations for federal aid to local communities are a major factor in determining household energy costs. Now, I don't understand that one, but this data plays a critical role in the efforts to determine and evaluate the extent of climate change from local to global scales, and that does happen because they have all the records of what the maximum and minimum, and so they'll have graphs of what happens, and we'll see later in the graphs. It doesn't change much, but it is there's a tendency for an upward temperature rise, but it's not much. In addition, data collected by weather observers help local officials make long-term planning decisions about water resources and are used by a variety of industries on a daily basis, including medical, transportation, agricultural, engineering, and communication. And I wonder if they're going to make this long-term planning decisions when they talk about the Nooksack when it floods. So, I don't know. We'll see on that one. And we'll get into one of the greatest rain events in the state of Washington and how that impacted the community here. This is the original paperwork for the station. I scanned this. I don't know if you can see it very well, but it was next to the Bellingham Bay and British Columbia Railroad, and that was up at Clearbrook, and it was just talks. What's interesting about this is they took the time of observation. That's 7 a.m. for the minimum and 1 p.m. for the maximum. And that's a little strange for 1 p.m. because normally your hottest part of the day is around 3, 4, 5 o'clock. So anyway, that's what they did. And here's the Pioneer American Growers of Holland bulbs. The bulb garden is right here. And it's the finest bulb climate in the world. So they must have had a bulb garden at Clearbrook when they started it. This was the original shelter. They called it Cotton Region Shelter. And this is what we had in our place for quite a few years. And I believe it was the original one. And originally, these are metal. You can see the metal frame there now. Well, ours started out as wood, but in the state of Washington it rots out, so they had to replace that. But what it shows here, it's a double insulated top on this shelter, and it has these little louvers so it doesn't get direct sunlight, and it's painted white to reflect the rays so it doesn't get hotter. So they try to really measure the temperature accurately. And in this setup, we had 2 thermometers, one for a minimum and one for a maximum. And they say in there, one was alcohol and one was mercury. The alcohol one did the minimum. And we'll see later, I think the guy, there was a little a bar that he read, and I think he read on the wrong side of it. At least he said in his paperwork he was reading the wrong side of it for a while. And the maximum would go up to a certain point, and then on one of them, I remember there was a
interference.
That was like my cell phone, maybe going off or somebody. On one of them, there was what the temperature was at that time of observation, and I know on the I believe it was on the maximum, you had to spin that thing to get mercury or something down. You had to flip it. This was replaced and was replaced by this setup. So this is what we have today. We have this maximum minimum temperature system, and that's a digital system, and it's about 6 foot high there. And then we have the rain gauge, the standard rain gauge. And I believe this is the original rain gauge that was first put in. Because the only difference on this, it's got a metal frame now. It used to have a wooden frame, and it rotted out. So that's the only change that they've done to that. The shelter was donated to the Linden Pioneer Museum. So I think in the basement of the Linden Pioneer Museum, it's down there. Because it was there for, oh gosh. This has been in what, for about 15 years now, this system? 15 months, something. And so this is what we have now. And this is what that little beehive, I'll call it the beehive. This is what we read in the house. This is what it's showing, the temperature. And it was a nice day that day.
Do you know what time of day that was?
It was about 2 o'clock. And that just sits under the cabinets by the counter. And we have you push this button here, maximum, you push this one, it'll show the minimum. And if the electricity goes off, you hit this and it's a reset. It'll say help on there if the power goes off. And so I pushed the minimum, and it was 34.5. Now we round, it'll be, I call it 35 for that day. We don't go to the 10. And the high was, that would be 53. So that's the max. And
What time of day do you take that reading?
we're supposed to take it at 6 o'clock
At night?
at night. They want to kind of standardize that in the country and do it about 6 o'clock. But that kind of changes when we enter it into the weather coder. You can tell them what time you put it in. But a lot of times it'll still be hot at 6 o'clock, and it'll cool down the next day. So your last observation will be the next day. Will show, let's say it was 95. Well, the next day as it gets to 72. Well, it'll show that next day as a high 95. Oh, this is the standard rain gauge, the 8-inch standard rain gauge. And this is what it looks like. And then I took it apart, and you got the 8-inch overflow can. And then you got a 2.5-inch brass measuring tube with a funnel there that funnels in. And then we got the measuring stick. And 1 inch of rain, what I'm showing over here, 1 inch of rain equals 10 inches. So this tube will hold 2 inches of rain before it goes into the overflow, and then you just got to dump it into that. And that happens occasionally. And then in the evening I go, and this is the website you go to enter the information in. And once you're logged in, you have 3 different ways to do it. You have to enter the observation. You have the daily form, the monthly form, and the super form. This is a new form that just came out, and it takes you to another web sheet. And actually, it is faster. But if you do it daily, it's a lot simpler. And so this was for February 22nd. It was logged in, and then it gives you a choice of time. And I think it even goes to the minute here, too. They want the time and the minute, and then you get your maximum, put your minimum in at observation. And then they want precipitation as, you always got to, if it rained 10 hundredths, which is a tenth of an inch of rain, you have to put the 0 in, 0 point. If you don't put the 0 in, they don't like that. So apparently people were putting just numbers in, and they're, let's say 10. Well, they didn't, and it was actually supposed to be a tenth. So that's part of their quality control. And then you got to go in, and then they'll ask you to submit it, and you got to click on it and enter it. This is the monthly form. And on the monthly form, they have these little locks. So these were all done. So this is if you don't do it, if you didn't do it for a whole month, which I won't say, I used to do that. You toggle on the lock, you open them all up, and you just go right down and do for the whole month. But it takes you a while because you got to look at your paperwork, and then you got to enter it in. And this is the super form. and this is a lot faster. And this is something new. I occasionally use it, but if you enter it in on a daily basis, it's and I'll show you why later. Why I like to enter it in on a daily basis. And then you can download the different forms. And this is one form that you can download. It's a PDF file, and then it gives you all this information here. And this is for obviously January 2013. So this is what I download. Originally, we'll see if I have it. Oh, this is just this station history. George Gibbs started it, and then it was moved twice in the town of Clearbrook, this station. And then in 1919, it came to our farm, and my uncle was the observer, and then in 1950, my dad, and then my mom, and then me. Pretty much you have to die before you are replaced. This is online. I got this online. This is the first sheet in 1903. You can go online and you can get all the data. So this is the very first sheet from 1903. They've all scanned that back there. It's amazing what they have. I didn't know about this until I read some forum and they were talking about that. So this is the very first one, and they did it a little different. Now I got my Excel sheet. I don't have to add anything. Obviously, they had to add all these up to get a sum, and then get a mean, or I guess that's a mean. It wouldn't be a mean; it'd be an average, I guess. And so they had to do a little work, and the same with the minimum. And then they had I want to say a range. Is there a range in there? This is a range. They put a range in here of the difference between the high and the low. And we don't do that anymore. We put the observation in as what it is when we take it. And then they're doing the wind direction and all that. And I won't say I do that all the time. And so they had some work to do over here to all this. And it's the best available record. So obviously, what we used to do is take these forms, and we still have them up here. They send out these forms and we fill them in. And it's nice to have a hard copy in case the computer goes down, because it has happened. And they used to send them in to, I want to say, was it Asheville, South Carolina, or something like that? And somewhere back there, and that's where the repository of all this information is. Okay, then this was the very first one, and then I went and found on the next person, which is Nevins, and that was in July 1915, and then this is the first one of my uncle, and it says there may be some mistakes in these records as this is my first month. So it's his first month. So then I thought, I'll be real smart. I'll go and get the 1951. Well, they haven't scanned from 1950 to 1979. They haven't scanned them, so they're waiting for funding or whatever. So that was kind of disappointing because that was quite a year. As far as snowfall and weather event, 1950 was let's say a good year if you're a kid playing in the snow, but you had to work, and I don't think it'd be all that great. And what do we have here? Oh, that's supposedly that's my first one because I went online and I found, and it looked like my sister had done it for a couple months after my mom died. So it was not my writing, so. That was my first one that I put in. And now here's one from this is 1935. And the reason I got this number here is a very interesting number. It's 7.77 inches. And because the record at the Clearbrook station for rainfall was 7.7 inches in one day. Well, I went to the record. No, it was a tremendous rain event, and it was the biggest rain event in the state of Washington. I think yeah, I'll maybe see that later. I want to say it rained like 35 inches in the Olympic Peninsula. And so obviously something was going on here, and there was so I went to the Linden Tribune to see if I could find all this data. Well, they didn't have any weather data that week, but they talked about before the snow. There was a snowstorm, and it blew in, and the mail carriers couldn't. It was the first time in like 10 years or 20 years they couldn't deliver mail. And Fish Track Creek was isolating Linden because on Double Ditch and what's the main road? Is that front? Not front. There by the fairgrounds. What road is that?
Cock Road?
No, by the front street.
Okay.
The bridges had were gone, are going, and they had to work feverishly to save them. So it was, and Fish Trap Creek was like a river. So I can imagine with that much rain at our station, what it was like there. But they didn't talk about it in the paper. I was going through the articles and stuff, and they really didn't talk about it. They talked about and I figured maybe the next week. Well, they must have been so tired that they forgot about it by that time.
So that's a record. Did you say it's not in the state of Washington? Just at Clearbrook, that's a record, 7.7?
Yes, but they got it as 1 day.
And it wasn't 1 day.
And it wasn't 1 day. It's 3 days. It was 3 days.
Oh,
but
okay.
it's a tremendous. Look at the first day. On the 21st, it rained 2.70, and then it's averaging over 2.5 inches each of those days. Well, I can't tell you what day, but it's that he took it at 7. It looks like at 9 a.m. on the 25th, and it still rained 8,500. So that's a lot of rain. Because normally 2 inches of rain is pretty good rain around here. Okay, so now I want to go now to the internet and then show what's available on the internet. If we can be so smart. Okay, I put all the sites that I have and a weather file on SkyDrive. And I don't know if you're familiar with SkyDrive or not, but it's a cloud computing storage system from Microsoft. And I'm smart enough to copy the code. And so then it shows my weather file up there. And so, oh, look at that, it's kind of wavy. But I'll put that weather file up there, and let's see what we got. And the T-Sum 200 is an agricultural thing. When it gets up to 200, then they can pump manure. And it goes off a formula. I don't know if I want to show that. That's beyond what we need to do. But here on SkyDrive, you can go and, let's say, if I click on January, that should show up. And it should show that sheet that I showed previously. And I think if I clicked on this, I could go to the full-size workbook. So everything is there for this year's records, and I also have past year records in a file folder. So let me try that. These are all links, and so you could go there, and then you'd find all the different weather records since I started in 2001, putting it in Excel.
So this is a public site. We could.
Yeah, anybody can go to this site as long as they go to my website. I've made these folders all public, and I should be able to get out of that. And then let's go to. I'll just go through some of the sites I go to. Here's a site from NOAA. And this is showing the river at Ferndale. And the last observed value of 6.12 at 2:30 p.m. That's today, so it's pretty on time. And the flood stage is 19 feet. Which is interesting here is at 1935, And hopefully I can find it. Oh, here we go. Historical crest. So in 1935, it was 30.21 on 125, 1935. See that down? It doesn't show my plane route. It does. It does show it. But look at that. If the flood stage is 19 feet, they're 30 feet. Yeah, I wonder if they're using the same gauge. I would assume, but you don't know. The upstream gauge will take you up to Cedarville, and you can see what's going on. Now, you wouldn't think that's all that important, but when it floods, it's going to be really important. Especially, I don't know if you've noticed, but between Nooksack and Everson, the U.S. Geological Survey has put another monitor. It's off by the road there. And when you see that with any water flowing through it, and I'll show you that in a little bit, you're in trouble because it means the river's flooding. So that's what that gauge is down there. State. And let's just scroll down to the Nooksack one, and I'll show you the Sumas River has, they used to have 3, but they only got 2 gauges now. The one at the Massey Road is discontinued. That one is no longer, but it's showing here.
Is that the Everson Overflow project?
No, the Everson Overflow one is right here, this one. And if you ever see any numbers in here, you're in trouble. That's the gauge down between Everson and Nooksack.
On what street?
On 544.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you've seen that. There's a gauge sitting out there.
Oh,
on
no.
The,
Where it's made to go, there's concrete spillway, so to speak?
I don't see that. I see it just past Mike Gunzer's milk stand there. There's
that bridge.
Huh?
There's that little bridge.
Oh, Swiss Creek.
That's where is that Johnson Creek through there and comes up. But so anyway, it's telling you. It gives you the time, and it is telling you what the heights are here. So the Nooksack River at Cedarville was 140. I don't remember what it showed on that other one, but it's pretty much real time. That's 515, and the overflow is. I've never seen any numbers, and I don't think I want to. But they put that in last fall.
Well, it's gone over there.
Well, I know, but previously, not this year.
No.
Oh yeah, that's where it floods.
It's gone over many times.
Oh yeah, that's why they want. So this is kind of interesting to look at. And to Cedarville is right here. Was at 146, and that's at flood station. Now it's got to get a little higher than that. But anyway, that's what's available. So let's get out of that one, and let's go to.
Do they have gauges that operate after it floods? Like the one on
the
Emerson
river?
Road?
On what road?
Emerson Road? Right where it starts to turn, there's one on a telephone pole on the back side of it.
Is that on? Would that be the Massey one? Massey Road?
It's on Emerson.
Okay.
It's
No,
about
I'm not familiar with that.
No.
I just all I know is this. Okay, let's go to WeatherNet. This shows a map of the whole state and what the temperatures are. And different colors mean different temperatures. This is what WSU has, and I will say this. Let's just click on that one, which is we'll see what it is. It's the Nooksack one. Okay? And it shows what the temperature is, and it's got all this stuff, and it didn't rain today. Solar radiation. Gives a latitude and longitude.
Oh.
And so that was one of the things I was going to show today, if I'm good enough to do that. I want to go to Google and I want to, and the reason I want to show this, okay, that's where the station, I don't want to go any further, that's where the station is. That's at the Nooksack High School.
Mm-hmm. Is it by the green arrow or the A?
It's by the green arrow.
Oh.
It's exactly where the green arrow is.
Huh.
If you were running on the track, when you go down and run on the track,
Yeah,
do your
right.
exercise, you'll come around at about the 100-yard mark if you start, and that's where that little station. They're not.
Oh.
There's 4 of them.
Oh.
There's one at Nooksack. There's one down on Highway 9 as you make that first turns across the railroad track.
Mm-hmm.
There's one over on Linden Birch Bay Road where Clark's got his plant, and there's one around 10 Mile where the apple farm is. And then you can't. That one's a hard one to see because it's in the middle of a section. What I was going to try to show here, and I don't know if I can do this without a mouse, is to go over. I was going to pick a point. I was going to pick a point here. I was going to right click.
I can bring you a mouse if you want me to.
No, this will work.
All right.
Okay, and then it asks, what's here? Okay, now let's watch the latitude and longitude of this. And, well, it must have already changed. When I right click and I ask, what's here? It gives you the latitude and longitude in Google. So you can use it for 2 things. First and foremost, you want to help the library out here. And they got all these pictures on their Rural Heritage Project. And you can go in and you can give them, you can find where that picture was, hit right click, and give them the latitude and longitude, and put that in the comments of the of that picture. So if anybody, because in 40 years nobody knows where this actually this place here that I'm showing is where the original Clearbrook school was in 1884. Well, nobody would know that. But if you put the latitude and longitude, it's going to take you right to here. So that's it would be really helpful in the library because they got all these pictures. They put up a lot of stuff up on the internet.
I know this is a mistake, and like the Nooksack mine cabin
Yeah.
is not the one in the pictures. The sawmill cabin is showing in the pictures.
Oh.
Talk about that later.
Yeah, and you can go up there, but this is how to get the latitude and longitude of where those pictures were taken, and it would be really helpful for anybody doing research later.
Oh, that'd be cool.
And because I went and did all of,
Can you take like a cell phone picture of an area and say this is where I'm at and then put it in there?
that I don't know. I know how to do this.
Okay.
I know how to do this, and that's. I thought it was. I tried to do it on Bing, Bing, but Bing won't let me do the right click and tell me where am I. And so, and another place it can help you if you want to go somewhere but you don't know the address. You know, with the TomTom, you can get these GPS coordinates and put it in, and it'll take you there. I had to do that recently on the farm tours up in Canada. I punched in this road. It didn't like this road. It took me up to Chilliwack. Well, it wasn't up at Chilliwack. It was just across the border. So finally, I had to put in the GPS coordinates to get to it, to find it. So it has another use too. So that was my plug for the library. But you can also use it too, and it's simple to do. Let's just take another point here. See, it changes that. I'm a lot more familiar with my desktop than this, but so you can go anywhere and find these points.
So what was that?
That's just a point out in the middle of nowhere.
Oh.
Yeah, that's up above. If I went down here,
Was that the old sawmill?
no,
An A?
no. I see. I have to go higher here. Let's go here, and let's go right here. Let's go right over here. And what's here? If I put what's here, that's where Mary Kelly and John Kelly's first place was when they were one of the original homesteaders in this area. And a couple of years ago, there was a 3-story house here. That's gone, and it was kind of interesting. I was following the railroad, looking at the little tramways, and I saw all this smoke. Well, in that picture, there was a barn, a 1915 barn that was right about where I'm at here, and it was burning, and you could see it burning, and you could see it was on May 30th, 2010. And supposedly you can go to Google and find the old, go back in Google and find old pictures of when it was taken. But anyway, it was showing that you could see the rafters, it was burning, you could see the smoke, you could see the fire trucks. They just needed one more level, and you could see people, you know? It's just, it's getting more and more refined all the time. Anyway, that's kind of an aside here. What this is the radar. So this is what it was happening right now, and these are the storms coming in. This is interesting because it takes the whole.
That's NOAA?
Yeah, that's a NOAA. No, I gotta get over. This was an interesting site. So because you can go all across the nation and take a look. Let's take a look in the Midwest, see if it's raining there at all, and let's take a look. They're supposed to have a northeaster coming through here today, I heard. So let's just see what's going on. And but that's at NOAA's. Oh, there we go. Look at that. So they're supposed to have a snowstorm going through that. This was interesting when Hurricane Sandy was going. You should have seen it. It was huge. It was just a huge area. So it's kind of interesting to look at. But there's that one. I got three of them. I got the. These are all on my website. All links on my website. All you have to do is get to my website and.
What's your web address with your girl?
RoderickPerry.com. And what it is, I bought a domain name and I have it redirected to a free.
And there's no K.
No K. RODERICPERRY.com, and then it's redirected to a free church site. If you're anything like me, you go and you look at something. Well, then you try to find it again. Where is it? And you'll look for hours, and so I tried to put them all together. Now, this is just another weather site I go to, AccuWeather, I believe it is, and it gives like a 30-day. Yeah, I can go to the next month and they'll give a 30-day outlook. Doesn't look like we're going to get much of a northeaster here anytime soon. So UW has a Department of Atmospheric Sciences. Quite a bit of information from the UW on that.
Yeah, it's current weather. That's over there, so.
Up in here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right there too.
You can do any of these. Was it colder or warmer in January this year?
Then when? Last year?
Well, historically.
Warmer.
Okay, let's take a look. Here's the average for. The average is 40.87 for the high. The period record average is 41.20. So it was actually colder for the high. Okay, for the low it was 30.39, and it was a little warmer than the period record average. So things don't change much, even though you think it was warmer. Let's see if I can get over and show a graph of that. There it is for the high. This is the graph of the low. This is what I've noticed on a lot of the weather records, is the low seems to be higher, more so than the high. So this is the rainfall. So the rainfall was more than normal. That's the blue is what was the period record, and there was a little bit more. And that's kind of all over the board. So that was last month. Even though you think it was we didn't have these northeasters and all, it wasn't that much warmer. Okay, does anybody know about Rufus on the Weather Cafe? Rufus Lalone, he's on the Weather Cafe, and this is what you would come to. If you go here, he gives Mondays and Fridays. He gives a little weather forecast. Let's go to. This is what is available on the internet of the Clearbrook site. Over here you have all these temperature and precipitation, all the data. And sometimes I will go into, and it shows the period of record is from 3/1/1903 till September. I was hoping they were going to update the data, because then I could go into the year and go find and see what records were changed. But they haven't done that. So here, if I click on the daily summary stats, it shows. It shows. Let's go to the 23rd today. Is here, and so we got. Got to know how to read this. The average is 48 over 108 years, and the high was 60 in 2005. The low, it was 26 in 1910. The low high. Then the average for the average for the low is 33. The high low was 46 in 1915. And it was 20 and 19. I can't read that. So 1920 something. So it gives you records for all the time, and it gives the rainfall. Every day has a record, and it has that all in there. So I was going to, and if you want, you could go up into edit, and then find on this page, and you could put in like 2012 and find out all the records. So anyway, there's a lot of information on this, and it's actually every station, because if you go to the state map, and all these would have a record. And let's go over to Blaine. If we click on that, Blaine Station started in October 1st, 1893. So it's quite a bit older. And you can go around to all these stations and find out all this information about. But if you go to a lot of them, it doesn't. They didn't last that long. Some of the stations started, they went so many years, and they're done.
Oh, Blaine's is still going?
Blaine's, yes, it's still going. It shows that here, but there were about 5 years it wasn't up and running. The woman who took it died, and no one took it over. And that is a problem of, well, that's just kind of a civic duty, you know, and there's less and less people willing to do a civic duty, and pretty much a cooperative weather station civic duty, because you don't get paid for it. And that was obviously a problem in 1919, because they moved the station down to our place. Someone at Clearbrook really should have done it, but it's hard to find anybody to do any volunteer work, let's say.
Are there automated systems that they have?
Yes, and they could be a cooperative station too. I will say this: the ag weather station, the one these digital that are recording the weather or the rainfall, are totally inaccurate, because I'll get an inch. Let's say a good example: I'll get an inch in 6800ths at our station using the standard rain gauge, and they'll get like 6800ths or something. It's totally unreliable in my to me.
So what's the point of having it?
Well, that's what they have. But because we're using 10 inches for an inch of rain, we're obviously going to be more accurate when we measure. We're taking a bigger volume and
more area.
More area. We're going to be far more accurate than the little digital counter. I've done it time after time. Now the air temperature is right on. Your air temperature will be pretty much, it's right on. But the rainfall is so inaccurate, because, no, I shouldn't say this, but occasionally I might forget to take the weather. And so I'll go down to the Nooksack site and look at the temperature. But I know the rainfall isn't that accurate. But you can have a 3-day average, or how many days you've taken the rainfall. you can do that on your input of.
When ground temperature is measured, is it the air ground temperature or the actual soil temperature?
They're taking ground temperature.
Soil.
Yeah, well, that's another site that showed up. The DOT site. They just put a new station up at. So there's another state map of the DOT sites, and it's 48 there at Sumas. But let's take a look at the Canadian border. Yeah, surface temperature, that must be the ground, because the sun must be out or something. Air temperature 48, and elevation 36. They got the one at the Nookside High School, I think about 80-some feet, and I think that's way off. I don't think there's no 81 feet. It's like our station is 62 feet or 60 feet.
Anderson Road is like 80 to 90 feet.
Yeah.
My house is 87 feet.
Right.
So that's not too far off. 7 feet lower out here.
No, it's going to be. This one's 36. Yeah, but it's not. I think it's 60 feet out there, 60-some feet. La Nina, El Ninos. Yes. Yeah, I have a little tab there for that, and the reason I have that is because of this winter we were supposed to have an El Nino, and it doesn't look. It looks like it ended up a La Nina, and I have a little. Maybe I should end with the storm tracks. This is hard to see, but what it's showing. This is a subtle change. And the El Nino, you'll see the storm tracks hit more towards California like it is right now. And the La Nina will be a little higher. It's pretty subtle. And it has to do with sea surface temperature out in the Pacific. If it gets warmer over towards the eastern Pacific, it moves more energy to the south, and that's El Nino. But El Nino. But La Nina is it cools down, and it makes it forces it higher, and we've kind of have had that this year because we've had this high pressure blocking the northeasters. So on that, I think I'll end my presentation and open up to questions.
What's the difference between red and blue?
It must be just I don't know. It must be warmer temperature, or maybe this one I had to look at quite a while because it's a pretty subtle change, and apparently the sea surface temperature out in the Pacific is only a few degrees difference too. That changes this, and that changes the. How much rainfall they're getting out in the Midwest too. And on my website too, I have long-range predictions for NOAA. Maybe I should go back to that. Long-range prediction, climate predictions of let's go 3 months out, and they show it gives a graph of the temperature. There's the temperature. This is 3 months outlook. This is what NOAA is predicting. Now, I will say this. During the summer, they were predicting a cooler and drier summer. And they were right. And they predicted a cooler and drier October. And it rained more than twice as much as normal. So that's all I'm going to say on that. But their models are, they're predicting this now. That's temperature. Then they come down to rainfall. And there's the equal chance. You got your equal chance. And that's here. So we got equal chance of having 3 months out of our normal precipitation. And it's still dry in the Dust Bowl. In the Dust Bowl era, although all this was in the Dust Bowl in the 30s. Ken Burns on public PBS they're going to have another series on the Dust Bowl in April. And that was really interesting to watch. So, could be my cell phone. That's a cell phone. Okay, I will leave it at that. I have all these links in my website, so you can go do it anytime. And then I will post. Supposedly I'm making a video. We'll see how that works out. A video, and I got audio. I can get the audio up on my website. The video takes a little longer. So, are there any other questions?
That's really interesting.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you. Okay, I will leave it at that. I have all these links in my website, so you can go do it anytime. And then I will post. Supposedly I'm making a video. We'll see how that